Hi, everybody. Welcome to our new episode, The Way Reality is Seen. Apparently, there is envy, ambition, struggle for success. But is there? Or is this the way reality, existing in and as all known form, is seen on the human belief level? The endeavor to give up the world, the flesh, and the devil in the hope of gaining the good will bring nothing but impoverishment. Such attempt, however, evolves from the fact that perfection, the good, is the law of being. Principle is the power in the concept to give itself up to truth, to die daily that it may live eternally. It can't possibly change itself from within its own framework. Truth will form its own perfect concept when there is no concept dulling vision. We may perform deeds of righteousness, repress all desire, read holy books in the hope of overcoming ignorance, think rightly only to find that the split personality or ego image has not noticeably changed. We are scientists in the understanding that everything done for the identity of our divinity, since in the concept, reality, divinity is the concept, we are not scientists when we outline one course of human action as good and another as bad, or one as better than another. Science is continually revealing new life more satisfying than the old. This is felt intuitively on the personal level as restlessness, unhappiness, and discontent. But such feelings do not affect the fact that what we are feeling in reality is love supplying the human need for the self-conscious identity of our divinity. And all of that was taken from Margaret Laird's book, Christian Science Re-Explored. Welcome, Betty. How are you today?
Really fine.
Is there anything you want to add to any of that?
Up there when you started reading, there's the second sentence, I guess it is, that talks about reality existing in and as all known form. I'd say known or unknown, all form. Reality is constitutional.
Okay. Yeah.
So if I have a clear sense of reality, what's real, then I have to look at my seeing if that isn't the way it looks to me.
Right.
If I don't agree with the picture, so to speak.
Right.
Because it's up to me what I'm seeing. There's nobody that climbs into my consciousness and says, no, you can't see that right now. You got to see it this way.
Right.
It's just one thing going on here, and it's up to me to take charge of my seeing. And I can't tell you how many times I heard Mrs. Laird say, pay attention to your seeing. And I finally got that I'm responsible for my seeing. Am I assuming that the way people tell me it is, and the way they see it, and the way it looks on the TV, and the way it looks in magazines, and so on, and so on, and so on, am I assuming that that is the way it is? If so, I've bought into a whole mist of stuff that isn't even true.
Right.
Somebody's point of view, not mine, but unless I make it mine. But we're all self-responsible.
Right.
We pay attention to our seeing because the seeing is done here, not out there somewhere projected over here, unless I buy it that way. And then I'm a victim.
Right.
So if I'm going to live myself responsibly, I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to say, what is it I'm seeing when my intelligence says all is infinite mind?
Right.
Is there something else going on besides that? And in that case, what does the word all mean?
Right. That's right. It's all is all encompassing, not all like, I remember you saying this one time, not all like all of a box of cereal, but all like everything.
Yep.
Yeah, very good. Okay. Shall we dive into the different quotes?
Did you go through all of this?
Yep.
Oh, I was back figuring out something. I'll catch up. Go ahead.
Now, we're going to be looking at Margaret Laird's book, Christian Science Re-Explored. And on page 115, Margaret Laird wrote, "When you don't think of yourself as the God idea will be yourself."
Mm-hmm.
When I am,
again slowly and see what it means.
okay. When you do not think of yourself as the God idea will be yourself.
That's right. Taking thought about gives you a two-legged vision that you then have to have do something or be a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, all the stuff we've got going on about what we think is who we are.
Sure.
So if you're not blinded by that view of yourself,
Yep.
there's some freedom to have the God idea in all its reality show up.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. And when I am mind, I am man disclosing the infinity of good, the God idea.
Yeah. So, you know, when you don't have an opinion about what's going on, you can actually find yourself experiencing being in charge of what's going on in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I can let go of my pictures,
Yeah.
let go of my concepts about it, my judgments about it, and all of that. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. And it isn't like a big struggle. It's like recognizing, oh, that's just a point of view. Uh-huh. Yeah. May not be that way at all. It's the way I see it at the moment.
Right.
And willing to just let it be.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. All right. And in Science and Health on page 582, starting on line 17, Mary Baker Eddy wrote in Science and Health, spiritual understanding is the pure consciousness that God, the divine principle, creates man as his own spiritual idea.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
God is the only creative power. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say the thing is that man is the expression of God's being.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't something you do or put into effect. It's like that's what's present. So get with the program.
Right.
Allow it to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
God is the only creative power. That would be the source of everything.
Yeah, and that's man.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever is being sourced is what we call man.
Okay.
So man is the expression of God's being.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And in Mind is the Athlete on page 23, you wrote, scientific fact finding provides new eyes for discovering the self.
Yeah. When you consider a scientific fact, you are discovering something about yourself of which you may not have been aware.
Right. Okay. And that's if you have the ability to hear it or to see it or to, because I would say if you're stuck on a point of view or an opinion or, and some judgment, you would miss that.
Yeah, you're pronouncing words, but you're not seeing ideas.
Right.
So we're not necessarily, we're parroting like a parrot would.
Right. And we're good at that.
Well, but when you do that, you're losing sight of yourself.
Right. Right. Well, if you can't see clear to let go of your opinions and thoughts, judgments and all of that about whatever it is you're experiencing, that's when you lose sight.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you won't have those opinions, but when you can acknowledge that they are your current point of view, you're not saying they're the law of the land. You're just saying they're my current point of view.
Right.
And that's fine. Yeah. On you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And beyond the observational or physical concept of self is a new landscape for self-discovering.
Read it again.
Beyond the observational or physical concept of self is a new landscape for self-discovering.
Yeah. You know, the reality is present. So there's always a new landscape for self-discovering.
Right.
Because reality is like infinity. It never duplicates itself. It doesn't repeat itself at all. It is always new, fresh, original, creative, perfect, whole, all those things. So all we have to do is begin to think in terms of the infinite presence that mind is in its self-expression.
Right.
It's just like always, 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 always showing up.
Yeah.
And it's what I'm seeing, hearing, feeling. Only if I'm not aware of that, I live it as if there was something out there going on, impacting something over here I call me.
Right.
So I have everything to say about my own daily living.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not able to escape at any point from being in charge and responsible for whatever's going on here.
Right.
I am the world I walk through, in Margaret Laird's terms.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. Now, in Christian Science Re-Explored on page 116, Margaret Laird wrote, "As conscious identity, I shall perform deeds of righteousness." And she went on to say, "I shall be compassionate and kind because I cannot help myself."
Yeah. It sounds a little bit like automaticity, but that isn't what she meant. She just meant that your personal concept of yourself will try to run the show unless you're aware that it doesn't run the show.
Right.
That there's a divine presence that is the show.
Right. And that's a continual being present to that, because it's so easily, you get hooked into.
I know. Two-legged animals always jump right on board,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And in Science and Health on page 14, starting on line 18, Mary Baker Eddy wrote, "Become conscious for a single moment that life and intelligence are purely spiritual." So become conscious for a single moment that life and intelligence are purely spiritual. That what we see, feel, hear, taste, and touch is what I want to say, it's not real.
Well, it is real. It's my being.
Right.
My presence, the way I see it.
Yes.
There's no unreality ever.
Ever.
Because the only thing going on is one thing.
Right. And this is the way it shows up.
Is in how I relate to it.
Okay. I get it, because there's only one reality present. This is the way it shows up. My best view of the one reality is the world I walk through.
Yeah. Because we live the world as we are, not as it is.
Right. Correct. Okay. Yeah. The body will then utter no complaints. And that's when I'm able to just be present with no concept.
Yep.
Because if I have a concept, I'm holding on to stuff, seems to me that complaint is right there at hand.
Oh, yeah. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If the two-legged animal is trying to run the show, it's going to be uncomfortable,
Right.
and it should be, because you're in Never Never Land.
Right.
You've forgotten who you are.
Right. Right.
So Margaret used to say she gave up in doing her practice, being concerned about whether people thought they were sick or well. She realized she could stand in the truth, and if people didn't get well, it was up to them.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't anybody that could make somebody well. She could just stand in the truth. People
Right.
that called her could either walk with her or thumb along on their own.
Right. Right. And that's up to each of us every moment, isn't it?
That's right. Every second, every
Whether
time
we're
you open your mouth or look around or say anything or do
right.
anything, it's always up to you.
Correct. Right.
There are no accidents. You're
Yeah.
living yourself as you see yourself.
Right.
You're living every day is feedback to you. You're giving yourself feedback on what you're doing, what you're up to, what's really happening for you.
And in Mind is the Athlete on page 23, you wrote, the mystical view regards consciousness as the primary reality, the essence of the universe, the ground of all being.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really causative then? Be clear that fundamental causation, a function of consciousness or mind, is always active.
Yep.
Because without it, there would be nothing.
Right. And consciousness, mind, is all constituting.
Yeah.
So it's allowing the consciousness present, calling itself Betty, in my case,
Mm-hmm.
to be the intelligence that's present instead
Right.
of instructing it on how to be that.
Right.
If I'm going to try to tell it how to do that, I'm out in left field somewhere.
Right.
The thing that we forget is that it isn't something we have to accomplish. It's the fact that it has us present in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And all it's doing is saying it in words. If we think it's trying to instruct us, we've missed the boat.
Right.
Because the instruction came way a long time ago. I've got it looking like this. Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because right now, in the way that we can think about now, is already in the past.
Yeah, right now is it's gone. It's recurring infinitely.
Correct.
Snapping your fingers like
Yeah.
reality occurring.
Right. Okay. All right. Now, I don't think that's a right quote. Hang on a minute.
Which one?
It's the final one.
We may speak of living consciously.
Yeah, but it's really Christian Science Re-Explored, page 116.
Yep.
So it's not from All is One. So that's an error. We may speak of living consciously as mind, but what we mean is that living consciously as mind is mind living.
Yes.
That kind of sounds like a bunch of double talk.
I know. Read it again.
We may speak of living consciously as mind, but what we mean is that living consciously as mind is mind living.
That's right. Because the view you've got of yourself as a two-legged animal is not is not what we're talking about.
Right.
We're talking about the generative presence that shows up looking like a two-legged.
Right.
There's a reality present all the time. Your capacity to live it as present, as life itself, as love itself, as truth present, self-manifesting. That fades out into the dust sometimes when we think that we're running the show as a two-legged animal.
Right.
Because that is not what's happening. And when you interrupt the flow of reality that's present, you find yourself having to work out of the knotty problem you walk into. Like assuming that you're a doer, a thinker, a beer, any of that. That is interrupting the flow.
Right.
And you're going to have to let go of that stuff and begin to be willing to just listen. And you're listening to the divine presence that's constituting you. And on you go. And things smooth out in your experience. Human living is feedback telling you what you're believing. And sometimes it's like flying a kite. It's wonderful. On we go. A lot of the times it's plodding along saying, when is this ever going to get straightened out so I can move on?
Right. Right. Okay, there is no I and mind. Mind is the I. I mean, these are all different ways of saying there's only one thing going on.
That's right. That's another way of saying it.
That's right.
Mind is the I.
That's right. And in Science and Health on page 479, starting on line 20, Margaret Laird wrote, man is the expression of God's being, which you have also said, and we've said just earlier even.
Yep.
Man is the expression of God's being.
That's right. It's a quote from Science and Health.
And then in Mind is the Athlete on page 26, you wrote, the issue of causation is the critical factor in any attempt to resolve persistent human problems.
Yep.
So the issue of causation is the critical factor in any attempt to resolve persistent human problems. Say more about that. The issue of causation. So it's out there.
What have you got causing it? Well, I can't pay the bills. I don't make enough money in my job. You know, that's one of those things.
Right.
Well, I would like to go, but I don't feel good today, so I won't go.
Right.
I'm going to have to find out what to do about solving this problem, because if I don't solve it, I can't do anything and move forward.
Right.
Like there's no possibility if it isn't down that primrose path.
Right.
But we do live that way a lot.
Right.
We assume that the way we're going is the only way we can go. You just don't understand. If anything else was possible, I'd be doing it, but it's not. I have to do it this way.
Right.
So have at it.
Yeah.
You'll find yourself stuck and stuck and stuck until you say, there must be something I'm missing here. Oh, right. Yeah. I got Betty around running the show. Thank you, Betty.
Right. All right. Huh. An understanding of the issue of individual perception or point of view is essential. The human point of view is always a view of reality.
Yeah, there's nothing else going on.
Right.
But am I seeing it as reality? Maybe I need to define reality for myself and remind myself that all that stuff I complain about is really my view of perfection.
Right.
So it isn't the perfection that's having a problem. It's my view that I'm stuck with.
Right.
But it really is that way, you know.
Right. Exactly. Because it's always the view.
Yeah, it's reality present is not even negotiable.
Right.
There is something going on that has me be. My argument is with who I think that is and what I think that is and how I think that is.
Right.
And when I get it straight, life flows right along. When I get it all gummed up with belief about the personal concept, belief that my point of view is absolutely the only point of view that is,
Yep.
instead of seeing it is a point of view, and 5 seconds from now, I will have another point of view.
Right. Well, because that's just the infinity that goes on.
That's
You're
right.
always going to have a point of view.
But I don't open up to the point of view if I'm stuck with the one I had 5 seconds ago.
Well, if you're stuck with thinking it should be different, or you have some judgment about it, something, the only reason you're stuck with it is because you're either resisting, ignoring, trying to change it, or something. You're fussing with the picture.
I'm justifying why it's that way.
Right.
And then I'm stuck with it.
Right.
If I can toss it out the window and start over, I'd be better off.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say about the subject, the way reality is seen, to wrap this up?
Yeah, because the title came from understanding that it isn't something that I'm handed. Like, oh, you're here. Here it is. This is the way you have to live.
Right.
That's not happening unless I say so.
Right.
Unless I agree and say, oh, well, all right, this is what we do. But when I can say, when I'm present, what does that mean? There's only one I, says Mrs. Eddy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is Betty. That's the big problem. But when I recognize that I is the divine perfection present that my point of view now calls Betty.
Right.
Doesn't change what's present. It's just that I acknowledge that I'm calling it Betty. Right. Well, what am I calling Betty? Oh, the divine reality present. Oh, then I'm not talking about somebody that can't do this and can't do that and is getting too old.
Right.
All that stuff that I get stuck with once in a while.
Yep.
So it is really life-saving when you can tackle some of that stuff on your everyday belief level of living.
Yeah.
Am I stuck with the Betty that shows up in the mirror when I'm combing my hair? No, that's just a point of view of a perfection present that I haven't even scratched the surface of.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a whole new world every instant. What is there in the morning when I get out of bed is not what's there in the evening when I go back to bed.
Right. Exactly. Always changing.
That's right. And I have to be willing to acknowledge the change and be willing to have it be whatever, because it can't be a duplicate of anything. There's no duplication in infinity.
Right.
It's always new. It's always fresh. It's always original. It's always perfect.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. I love it. Anything else you want to add? Any questions that anyone has? Just put them in the comments. And if you like this episode, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on notifications, all of that jazz. Help us get the word out. Anyways, is that it?
That's it.
All right. Well, then we'll be back next week. We'll see you then.